Hi there, this is Christine. So, this is the LaMetric Time. You may recognize this device from a lot of setups from prominent YouTubers or Twitch streamers. But in case you don't know what this device is, it's essentially a Wi-Fi connected smart clock/display thing, which uses apps in its app marketplace to show all sorts of different things on its clock face. So I showed this off to the CEO of our company, Gareth, who's also my boss. He was just like, hey, like, wouldn't it be cool if we could show HubSpot stats on this thing? And as you can see, I've figured out just how to do that. So the thing that we're going to be building today is going to be an app that will show us the total sum of closed amounts for the month, and then also show us how far off we are from our goal for that particular month. Just to kind of show you what the entire flow of this thing is, so you can kind of understand what's going on. I will draw an illustration of how this whole thing will work. So here's the LaMetric clock. So as I've said, the LaMetric clock uses applications in its app marketplace to display things on the device over here. So each of these applications can have like multiple what they call faces in it. So it's almost like slides in each of them. So this goes into, you install it into your LaMetric. But how these apps work is that they need to refer to some sort of file which tells them, so it's going to be a JSON file. They have like a file that tells them what information to display on each of these faces within the apps on the LaMetric thing. So it would normally be like, okay, so icon, ID number, and then what the text is for that particular face, yada yada yada. So this little file over here basically gives instructions that this app reads and then transfers over to the LaMetric time. So one, we need to create an app for ourselves, and then two, we need to generate this JSON file that includes all this information in it. And not only like, this thing's not going to be static, right? Because we want it to show the most updated HubSpot information. So one requirement is that this needs to be updated frequently. So the flow chart for enabling this to actually happen is one, we need to be grabbing the data from HubSpot itself, right? And then we are going to basically generate a JSON file and store it on something. I think we'll put it on Google Drive or something like that. Yeah, so we're gonna be storing it on Google Drive, so that this is where the JSON file will exist, and then we are going to be using make to do that. This file will be read by our LaMetric application, so that one, right? Basically, that will go into our clock. So that is how this entire system will work. So based on this flow here, we need a few things before we get started. So one, we need access to a HubSpot portal. Ideally, you would want to have super admin access so that you can connect it properly to Make. Two, you would need a Make account, preferably with a subscription, so you have all the operations you need to get this going regularly. Number three, you need a file storage solution where that Make can update for you. Basically, Make should be able to update the files in this file storage platform. I know it works on Google Drive, Dropbox, and HubSpot files, but in this instance, I would suggest using either Dropbox or Google Drive, just because if you store it on HubSpot, it's quite easy to figure out the slugs for it because it follows the structure of your folders within your HubSpot files section. So it's better to just use Google Drive or Dropbox because they usually use random strings at the end of their URLs. Because essentially what you need to do is you need to make this file over here public so that the app that you're making can access it. And then 4, to get this part going, you would need a LaMetric clock, obviously, so that you can display your thing. And then 5, an account of, once you set this LaMetric clock up, you should have like a LaMetric account. So 5 would be the LaMetric account so that you can create this app over here. So yes, those are the 5 things you need to get this started. So let's get to building this now though. So let's go. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we are going to build the LaMetric custom app. So ideally by this point, you have already set up your LaMetric clock. If you have not done that yet, please do so. There are instructions in your clock on how to do that. There's also probably like YouTube videos on that. So please get that done before you get started on this. So essentially to create a custom app for LaMetric, we just have to go to developer.lametric.com. All right, and then from here you won't need to sign up just because like if you already have a LaMetric account, you should be able to sign in with your LaMetric login. So I am going to log into my account over here. So once you log into this to your account, it will actually show you the create screen if you don't have any apps, but since I've already created apps, you can see the ones that I have here. You'll just have to hit create and you'll see this. So when you create an app on LaMetric, you have 3 choices. So it could be an indicator app, which is what we're going to build today. It's basically to show any information that you want. And then the second one is a button app. So it's basically if you want an app that just does something when you press the button on your clock, that's what you choose. And a notification app is more of like something that gets triggered when an event happens and it just shows for a little bit. So think of it kind of like an alarm for, like a smoke alarm for something like that. So we're gonna go set up an indicator app right here. We're gonna hit create. So we have the LaMetric developer interface right here. So up here, you will see a preview of whatever you build down here. And then these are all the settings for telling the app where to get the information we need. So this is where we're going to put the link to the JSON file and stuff. So first things first, we need to create the 3 frames that we want on our app. So as I said before, first frame is going to be the current month frame. So by the way, whatever you put into this interface while you're making it is just going to be the default face of your clock before it connects to the internet and grabs the data for you. So you can just put whatever you want here and your app will basically just update it with the data from down here. So don't worry too much about choosing the wrong icon or the text or whatever. Just make sure that you have the frames like built out here so it looks okay whenever it's not connected to the internet. So first frame, I'm just gonna use a HubSpot logo on this. So if you search HubSpot, you should be able to see all the different HubSpot pixel logos that I've created. So I have it in the traditional HubSpot or bright orange and also the new orange that they're using around. So you can choose any of these if you want, or you can create your own icon. So if you have like a company logo that you want to kind of pixelize, just kind of like what I've done for Oxygen. So I've done one for our company. That one. But for now, we're just going to use the HubSpot icon. So I'm going to use this one, HubSpot orange blue. And then the text for this first frame, I'm just going to put month, YY. All right, so that's our first frame. Second frame is going to be where we have the total closed amount from our pipeline. So I am going to add a money symbol. Let's see what money symbols are available. FYI, if there's a little play button on these icons, it means they're animated. You can also create your own animated icons by going to the animation tab over here, or you can grab one of these and then duplicate them and then change them if you want to. So I kind of like this one over here, so we're gonna grab that one. All right, select. So you can see it's up here. And then if you want to see the animation or something, you can see that. You can just press the play button over there. So I'm just gonna put 0, 0, 0. Right, and then the third frame is going to show us how far off we are from our revenue goal for the month. So I'm gonna put a gauge icon in here. So we have this gauge and this gauge. So I'm gonna use this one. And then I'm gonna put 0.00%. All right, cool. So we have our frames built out so that this will display on your app if there is no existing data that it can pull from. All right, so that's what we got. And now we have to input the URL of the file that we're gonna pull the data from, essentially. So what we do here is we will grab this data. So this data, as you can see, whatever we typed up here, right? The month, YYY, and the icon is 51090. You can see it's here, icon 51090 and month, YYY. So this code over here is telling the LaMetric app what it needs to show. So just by default, we're just gonna grab this, this code over here and open up a text editor. So I'm gonna use Notepad, and then I'm gonna save this as a LaMetric test.json. All right. If you save it like that, then it should save it as a JSON file. And then what you need to do now is you need to upload it to your file storage of choice. So in my case, it will be Drive, and then I'm gonna grab the what they call that, the link from that after I upload it. For example, I have this JSON file on Google Drive right here, right? So if I get the link from this, make sure that you share it and make it public, by the way, so anyone with this link can view it. But when you get the link from the file, you can't directly use it in the in that field over there. You have to actually, because when you put the link over here, it's just a preview actually. It's not like a direct download. You need to give LaMetric a direct download link. So what I normally do is I go to Google Direct Link. I just search Google Direct Link, and then this one should appear. And then you can paste the sharing URL here, create direct link, and then copy that, then put it into LaMetric. I think for Dropbox, it's a little bit different. So just like look it up, like how to generate Dropbox direct link. It should give you the instructions on how to do that. So once you put the data, the URL for the data in here, you can click validate just to make sure that the app can access it. If it's accessible to the app and it can read it, then it should show up as green over here. This file is the one that our make scenario will also be updating, by the way. So also keep in mind this ID. Alrighty, so we have the file set up, we have it validated. Now you want to fix the poll frequency update. So this is basically telling the app how at what interval it should be checking the file. So the reason why you'd want to like set this up properly is because you don't want to hit some sort of limit with accessing the file. So you might get blocked at some point if you're polling the information way too often. So I recommend putting this at 10 to 30 minutes. I feel like 30 minutes is quite reasonable because you don't really need to see that closed data like that immediately, right? So you can put it as 30 minutes like that. But I mean, for testing purposes, you can put it at 10 minutes for now. And then you don't need to set up anything else here. So once you're done with everything here, all you need to do now is click next. And then your app icon, you can choose whatever you want for this. It doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna put another HubSpot icon here. You can name your app anything you want. You can be like company closed one deals kind of thing, and then I'm just gonna keyboard smash there. Privacy policy, you can just put your normal privacy policy. in this. And then after this, you can select what the visibility is. Clearly, you don't want to make it public because then everyone can see your company's HubSpot stats. So you'd either want it private or shared. So private would just make it appear as like a private app for your own account when you log into LaMetric on your smartphone. But if you want to share it with another colleague who has a LaMetric as well, you can type their email address here and they should be able to download the app as well. So for example, I have an account for Oxygen and I'm just going to share it to tech management, for example. So you can do that. So you can just click save here, then it'll take some time. So once you reach this point, it's not published yet. So you want to hit publish, double check all your information here. You can check whether the thing can still poll and it's like reachable. If you want this version to, if you want to edit the version and stuff like that, you can click edit. Otherwise you can just like publish and update it and stuff. All right, I think it deleted my draft actually. Oh no, it didn't. Okay, so I can publish this now. All right, let's publish this. And then now it should appear on your phone and you should be able to download the app. So before we move forward with anything else, go into your LaMetric app on your phone and download your new private app just to double check that it is working and that it can connect and display these default frames that we've built onto your clock. And if everything is displaying correctly, then we can move on to creating the make scenario that updates the JSON file. Alrighty, so this is the make scenario that I have created to basically pull this month's deals and then sum all their amounts together, reformat it, and then update the file on Google Drive. First things first, we need to search for all the deals that have closed for this month. So how this entire scenario works is that it will regularly check HubSpot for information about like the closed deals. So we will be scheduling this every weekday to run every weekday because there's no people in the office. It's not like they're gonna see it unless this is like a home thing and you want to see this, but then people might not be working Saturday, Sunday anyway, so weekdays should be fine. And then you can just put working hours here. Reason why you want to limit this, the scheduling for this, is because you don't want to use too many of your operations per month, because you do have a limit on your subscription on Make. And then also I made it so that the schedule, it checks HubSpot every 60 minutes. All right, so first things first, you need to create the first module over here. It needs to be HubSpot search for CRM object. So it should be this one. And then you need to select the object type to search, obviously deals. And then you need to make sure that the amount is going to be outputted, because if you don't output the amount, how are we going to read it and reformat it for the clock? So get the amount out there, and then you can filter by. So this will allow you to filter the deals that will appear in the search results. So kind of like using filters in HubSpot normally. My filters for this is one, closed deal amount, because when a deal is closed, obviously it will have a property value. And then second of all, close date is greater than this. Just to explain what this filter is. So how I'm grabbing the current month, because we're trying to get all the deals from the current month, right? So how I'm grabbing the current month is using the now stamp, right? So every time this is running, it's within the current month, obviously. And now includes the month and the year. So using format date, I am extracting year, month. I'm not taking the day because we want all the deals from the month, right? So I am going to, so after it grabs year, month, I add a /01. So that will be the first day of the month. And then midnight. So that's 00 o'clock, right? So this means that it will look at any deal with a close date that is greater than the first day of the month, midnight. That is the initial filter. And then the reason why I have another format date here is because close date works in Unix timestamp. It doesn't work normally like this. So if you wanted to completely understand what you're trying to like filter, you have to format it into Unix timestamp. So how you do that is you do format date, semicolon, X, and then close bracket. So that is essentially what is happening in this little filter over here. Because close dates and close deal amount, if it's close loss, it can have a close deal amount and can have a close date within the current month. So just to make sure that we are getting actual closed deals instead of like lost deals, I've also put a filter here for forecast category equals to close. So this will grab any of the closed deals. But to make this work, you have to make sure that your forecast categories, the automations for it are actually turned on, because if you don't have that turned on, then this filter won't work. So if you don't have forecast category turned on, you can filter by the pipeline stage instead. But the problem with filtering by pipeline stage is if you have multiple pipelines, then you would have to create multiple filter groups, essentially, because pipelines are recognized not by their name, but their ID. You can't just put equals to or like contains sales or whatever, because that will not grab the pipeline that you need, essentially. Forecast category is the best way to do it, so that no matter the pipeline we're talking about, that information is going to be grabbed. So I'm just gonna run this one. So by the way, when you're trying to test if your modules are working, you can run them one by one like this. So you can just run module once, and then you can see what the outputs are, and you can double check whether or not this matches what is on HubSpot. So you can see the ID of the deals over here, so you can just like find it on HubSpot. If these filters match with the same number of closed deals on your HubSpot, then everything is good, everything is fine. And then make sure that the IDs and the amounts and stuff are being grabbed correctly. So after you get that search module up and running, now the problem is the amounts are kind of nested within these bundles. So you can see when I open each of these bundles, I have to click another plus button to even get to the amount, right? So we need to extract that from these bundles. And how you do that is by creating an iterator module over here. Just drag the iterator module in, and then you can just specify to it to grab the amount property from the first module. So basically we're trying to sum all these amounts together, and how sum works in Make is that it needs to be formatted a certain way. So basically it needs to be formatted to be sum value 1 : value 2 : value 3 : value 4 : blah 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 blah. By iterating it here, we're not able to put it into that format just yet. To do that, we need to put them into an array. So we need to regroup them together, essentially. If I just run it like this, right, you can see the amounts are in here. And then when you get to the iterator, you can see there's 3 operations. So what happened is it split the amount into 3 separate operations over here. So now we have to regroup them together. And then how you do that is like through an aggregator. And then you can see all of the values are in here now. So with the aggregator, all you have to do is input the first module as the source module, and then select value over here and press OK. You don't need to do target structure type or anything here. You can just press OK here. To sum all the values, we now need to add a set variable module here. So this is a set variable module. And what we've done here is first we put a map function to help us format the values into the value 1 semicolon, value 2 semicolon, value 3 semicolon. So basically you just like wrap the map around a sum and then you'll be fine. And then we have a round here. This will round it up to the nearest integer. Now we have a second set variable here with, seems very complicated, but I will explain the logic of this. So essentially you want to add an M, you want to shorten the total amount to an M or a K, because sometimes like, yeah, you might be closing deals in the millions or you might be closing deals in the hundreds of thousands, and you don't want the number to be like super, super long. You want to kind of just summarize it into like 1.5 M, 10.2 K or something like that, right? We have a lot of logic here to allow that to happen. So there's two things happening in this entire variable. So to break this down, this is what is happening. So first of all, we have this part that decides whether or not to give us an M or a K. So if the amount sum from this module is larger than or equal to 100,000, put an M, because when it reaches 100,000, I didn't want to put it into like 100K because it just seemed very long. So I just wanted to be like 0.1 M instead. Otherwise, check something else. So this second if statement is if the sum is larger than or equals to 10,000, then put a K. And then if it doesn't fulfill this requirement or this requirement, essentially it will just put an empty string, because if it's just $100, for example, then we don't need to put an M or a K there. So that is what is happening over here. In this section right here, we have kind of similar logic going on. If the amount is over 10,000, then you should divide the amount by 1,000 so we can get the K amount. And then if the amount is over 100,000, then divided by 1,000,000 so we can get the M amount. And then after you go through these if statements, we also have a format number over here that essentially rounds the number, the decimal points to 2, and then makes the decimal points use a period, because by default make uses a comma instead. So that is essentially what is happening there. Yeah, it looks complicated, but it's actually not as complicated as it seems. In any case, you can just copy whatever I've done here and it should be good on your side. So after you've created your total amount variable and then your formatted M or K variable over here, now it's time to update the file on Google Drive. To update the file on Google Drive, you can just find the update a file module and just drag it into your flow. What you need to do is just enter the file ID manually. So grab the last, like the string ID at the end of your Google URL and then just paste it in here. So from here, you can just select change file content, yes, and then map, and then the file name, you can keep it whatever you want, but the more important part is this section over here. As you can see, it's very familiar, like it's formatting, right? It's similar to what we did before. So in the first frame, right, we want to show the current date. So how we're showing the current date here is, again, we are grabbing today's date. Today's date includes the current month. So we will format the date to just show month, YY. So that will show November 22 at the moment. And then you can keep the icon ID the same, but the difference now is I've added a comma up here and then another line called duration. So duration here tells the app how long to display the frame. So 5,000 will display it for about 5 seconds. For the other frames, I've set the duration to 8,000. So make sure that you have the comma over here after the icon ID and then no comma after you've put in the duration. All right, so the second frame is this section over here. So for this section, we wanted to show the total amount, right? So what we're just gonna do is we're just grabbing the amount from this module over here that reformats it. So the 2.18M that gets reformatted here, that is what's going to go in here. And again, you can keep the icon the same or change the ID if you really want to. And then you put the duration. And then next frame is this one. So the text here is going to be the percentage goal, percent towards your goal for the month. Now, there's no way for us to grab the goals that you've set within HubSpot itself, so you will have to just put your goal number in here. So what I've done is the amount sum, I am dividing it by the goal that we have for the month and multiplying it by 100 so we can get the percentage amount. And then we can format this number so that it only has 2 decimal points, and then it will have a period for to signify when the decimals are happening, and then a comma for the thousands, basically. And then after formatting and calculating the percentage number, we have a percent character that shows up after that. So that is the entire text. And then again, you can keep the icon there and the duration there and whatnot. And then once you're done with that, you can hit OK and save it. And then you can try running this entire thing once to see if it actually saves the file and updates it. The data it shows is November 2022. Text is 2.18M. And the text for the third one is 174.14%. So based off of the time it takes for your app to poll, so we've set it at 10 minutes for now, right? So within the next 10 minutes, your app should change the data that it's displaying if this was done correctly. If you want to use HubSpot, by the way, so HubSpot, it's quite similar as well. You can put just the file name in here. You put the data that you want to input, and then you put the access type as public, not indexable, and then you can save it to wherever you initially saved the original file, and then you can click overwrite. So that's how you do it on HubSpot. But anyway, yes, so this is how I built this solution for LaMetric. There are some other ideas that I am looking to explore on LaMetric, like creating apps for showing deals from different people and stuff like that. So I'll get to making those videos as soon as I can figure out how to do that in the most efficient way as possible. And then also I might do a tutorial on an alternative way of doing this with IFTTT if you have a subscription for that. But yeah, so I hope this was useful. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to leave it in the comments below or poke me on LinkedIn if we're connected there and stuff like that. Anyway, hope you all have a good day. And yeah, happy HubSpotting.